don't mind standing. It doesn't mean that you have to acknowledge this as your prayer or anything else. This is one of the first prayers that was introduced to us by the Father. It was the first prayer that came to us from our ancient forefathers. It was one of the original prayers. It was a covenant. Okay? Now, those who wish to repeat after me, if you don't, you remain silent. Okay. All right. You have the children of one Father.
One Father,
Provided for by His care.
by His care,
The rest of one mother has given you the Son.
the rest of my mother has given Himself.
As the bonds of affection. Go ahead, as the bonds of affection.
The bonds of affection,
Therefore unite thee.
therefore unite thee
With thy brother.
with thy brother.
Peace and happiness.
Peace and
This is our Father's house.
Be on my Father's house.
We're separate in the world.
Be separated in the world.
Remember the relationship.
Remember the
That is
relationship.
bound with you.
Bound
To love
to love
and unity.
and unity.
Prefer not a stranger.
For not a stranger.
For thine own blood.
For thy own blood.
Love in diversity. Assist them.
Assist them.
The sisters in trouble.
Assist in trouble.
Forsake her not.
Forsake her not.
So shall the fortune of thy father.
So shall the forces of thy Father.
And children support of his whole race.
Children restore the race.
And his care be continued to you all.
And his care to continue to you all.
In love to each other.
In our love to each other.
Thank you. I feel better already. If you note the last little phrase or sentence, if you will, in that, in your love to each other, that is so meaningful because one of Jolly's key message to us was that we learn to love instead of hate. And for years, a lot of the Moors did not understand the significance of what happens when you love. We take love as a weakness because of the society that we came up in. You know, that makes you vulnerable. Someone will take advantage of you, kind of thing. Quite the contrary. What love does is, you know, think about anybody that you call yourself. Well, let's not say fall in love. We don't want anybody falling. But if you fall in it, it's got to be below where you were at that time. So you don't want to go there. But so think about somebody that you really care or something you really cared about. Then you sort out many ways to become harmonious with that particular person or that particular thing. It could have been a car, it could have been a dress, it could have been anything that you admired or treasured or wanted. You know, then you sought ways and means to make you and it one. See? And sometimes you even put aside those things that may not have been so pleasing about it, or her, or him, because you want to be harmonious. This is what love does. Love causes you to seek out the harmonies of life. Those things that bring justice, mercy, love, and right. Now, on the other hand, if you want to deal with the next thing, okay, hatred, on the other hand, causes you to look for the little difference. What is it that we don't, you know, what is the difference between me and you? Are you taller than me? You know, you light skin, I'm brown skin, okay? You wear a dress, you don't, you know, whatever the case may be. Look for the little differences, you know. What good do you live in? You know, okay. You know, what school you was in? Did you finish school? You know, look for little differences. Immediately, I come to the Moorish temple, for example, and one of the things that goes today, the first time one will meet another one, they say, what temple you belong to? Rather than say, you know, you've been so happy to see another Moorish American. You see what I'm saying? Another conscious person, you know, of no matter what the level may be. Okay? So what we want to do, we want to learn to love. Because love causes us to come together and find out what is it that we have in common. Okay? What is it that we should be harmonious about? All right? And this is what is necessary to get us beyond and above that realm that we have been brought down in. We're here today to show you how to solve what the majority call the Negro problem. Okay? I've written a book. Anybody have my book? Oh, great. All right. All right. This is called A Biography of Milton Wilder. 7 years in the making. Okay? From beginning to print. I wanted to write the book about 30 years ago. But for whatever reason, it wasn't to be done. Okay? And but I felt so humbled and grateful for what I found that Noble God had done for me. This is really why I was in work. Okay. And also what he does for my family, for my people, for my little deal. And I look for salvation. I came up, well, I'm in my 60s, so I came up during the 40s when everybody was colored. And in the 50s, everybody was Negro, were popular. And then in the 60s, all the colored Negro people turned black on me. I had a problem dealing with that because if you were black, you know, you call somebody black, you had to fight. You know, you might come out better if you talk about their mama. But you call somebody black in the late 50s, early 60s, you know, before James Brown got to screaming, right? All right. Okay. So, and then in the 70s, everybody turned Afro. Put another O in it somewhere. They got O in Africa or America or something, you know. So every 10 years, we were changing labels. And that was by design. Okay. Anyone who do not have a sense of direction, a sense of purpose, a source of strength, then they will imitate whatever comes by. It doesn't matter what it is. It is in the nature of the mind that you know what to think. Okay. So if your mind is not stable, it's not rooted in like your heritage, for example. Okay. I wrote a little article, it's in my book in fact, called The Negro and the Sardine. Okay? And I'm off the East Coast. In fact, I lived in D.C. for a while, for about 3 years, back in the day. And the one thing I always loved, and I hope my son will get too, he lives in D.C. now, and it was fishing. Okay? And I fished up and down the Chesapeake Bay, all in the Atlantic Ocean, you know, a few streams up here and there, and I've never caught a sardine. Okay? I mean, you know, you look in a can of mackerel, there's mackerel in there. You look in a can of salmon, there's salmon in there. Can of tuna, chances are tuna's in there. But what in the world is in a can of sardines? Since you didn't catch none out there. Okay? So, you find out that a sardine typically comes from the chipping or heron family. And what they did, they cut off the tail, cut off the head. It's the process. So once the head and tail is gone, you can't identify it. Take off any tail of a fish in the head, and you can't hardly tell what it is, especially if it has scales. Okay? Well, the same thing happened with the Negro. Okay? There was according to the article, and like I said, we'll be working with this today. And here's a little message that I had to pass around.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, let me see that. This picture here, Number 12 asks the question, says, where's the Negro? Well, before that, what he said, anyway, it says the Negro was a four-legged beast. That was in the original dictionary. Later, he said that it was a name given to a river in West Africa that was bred by the Moors because it contained black water. In other words, used for transportation. Okay? So we didn't have any life, no fish, nothing like that. Okay? It was just transportation. Okay? So when we look at this picture here, but I still have not been able to find a source, so you can't blame it. I didn't do it. Okay, and I tried this for 2 years, almost 2 years, a year and a half, to find out through the internet and other places exactly who was the author, creator of this phenomenon here. And I was able to do so, and no one actually responded to that.
So did this picture come out sometime this year?
It's been around on the internet, you know,
Oh, wow.
about the last year and a half ago, that I can count.
This first time I've seen it. Yeah, me too. Me too.
Well, it's the first time it's been, when I saw it, it looked like this. Okay? Didn't have any of this to it. I'm the one that did this book to give it definition. Okay? Because this was the closest thing I could find that will shock people into what actually happened to the free African nationals that were placed in slavery and were waged by our people on the way they are today. Okay? How many of you are aware of the fact that as a people we generate almost $1 trillion annually and don't own it? Right here. All right. It's almost $900 billion. Okay? $1 trillion annually. That's more capital than some small countries have. And we still do not own a thing. All right? Now, some of us may look at this and say, this is very gruesome, very emotional. And what is it? It can't be a dog because it got fingers, but it should be feet and hands. Okay? Part human, part animal. But you must remember, all the horror movies and outer space movies that you watch, it's always got something to do with a monster or better known as a beast. Okay? A beast is something that usually man makes, that's usually in his image, some kind of likeness, because he can't think beyond something that do not have a head and some arms, eyes. Okay? You gotta have something to contain the semblance, all right? This particular picture with the artwork says, what should we call them? This came also from duality, yes, but what should we call them? Speaking about the Negro, okay? And what we're going to do, we're going to take a legal and historical journey into the making of the Negro, all right? This is required because it's impossible for you to go anywhere if you don't know where you come from. If you really want to appreciate a thing, learn how he or she or it was put together. Okay, you jump up and murder somebody, and no research, don't know where, don't know nothing, what they've been through, nothing. Okay? Then you wonder why you got violence. Okay? So what we're doing now, today, we're going to research exactly how the Negro came to be and why was it necessary to put Wally the only one. I'm going to explain why I wrote the book about him. Okay? Just to give you a little bit of background on the Wally. It's been ordained in the prophecies that there was a covenant that was built by the God of our forefathers that simply said, anytime any of his children see the nations, people, families, would get in trouble from being so far strayed from the divine path or the right order. Now let me explain what the right order is. The right order is simply just knowing that you and the Creator are one. That's right order. Okay. Now, you may say, well, that's a bit strong. I can't come running and call myself God. That's something someone else told you to do. Okay? If you are made in the image and likeness of it, well, let's look at it this way. All seeds are perfect. They're just as perfect as the source of which they come. Okay? Yet the child is only as perfect as the mother is. That is to say that you can take a perfect seed. If you put it in the wrong soil, the tree's not going to come up correctly. All right? So if you're made in the image and likeness of the Creator, then how else could you be anything but what? Perfect. There is a perfect source within you somewhere. All right? As I was speaking earlier just before the session started, and the one reason why we have been taught here in the Western Hemisphere to serve a God that's outside of ourselves. Okay, bear with me now, right? I don't want to get into religion. Me and religion, we don't get along that tough, no way. Okay, but the thing about it is, you must understand that when it comes down to serving a God, when you are taught to serve a God that's outside of you, no matter what he, she, it may be, then you have been primed for enslavement. Okay? You have been targeted. You just sitting there waiting for somebody to make a slave out of you. Okay? The reason why it was so difficult to make slaves out of African gods, right? Because we knew who God was. All right? That's the reason why it was not successful. It for years, I mean centuries, until they come up with the idea, so wait a minute. There's something about this, I don't know what it is, but you know, these people, they could steal anything that they could see, taste, touch, smell, right? So they couldn't figure out why is it that they could not. And so what they did, took the babies away from the mother and enslaved the babies. Why? Because it's in the nature of the mind to become what it thinks. Okay? So they stopped the baby from thinking it was God. And once you're able to pick someone, you come up that way. You don't think, you know, it's like the eagle and the chicken. If no one told you was an eagle, you just be walking around the barnyard with the rest of the chicken. You don't know no better. Okay? Such is the development of the Negro. Except with us, it was a little bit different. How many of you from what is it called? Was after a Supreme Court case, Amistad? Amistad? That's right. A lot of people thought that it was a movie about slaves. It wasn't. All right. Amistad was about free African nationals that they were trying to make into slaves. Okay? Free African nationals. How many of you ever thought Marcus Garvey was a black man? Okay. How many black men have you ever known that were deported out of the federal penitentiary? Huh? I mean, you know, I've been in the federal system. I ain't never done that. It ain't gonna happen. That's the reason why, because he wasn't a black man. I know how right he was sun-kissed like I don't know what, but he was not a black man. Okay? Where was he born? Everybody know?
Oh, he was born 1887 in St. Helens Beach, Lincoln.
Lincoln. Okay. So he had a nationality. Okay? Thing about it is this. When it comes down to Amistad, they had to deal with the law. Okay? They said, well, they murdered a bunch of Europeans on the high seas, you know, kill them off with their head. Someone said, well, who are they? Okay? So they filed, write this down, brothers. They filed what is known as an affirmative jurisdiction. What was it? Affirmative. A-V-E-R-M-E-N-T. Affirmative jurisdiction. It's also in my book. This is in my book also. This is chapter 24. Okay? But this is what it looks like without chapter 21, 2, 3 on up, okay? This is what chapter 24 looks like by itself. Okay? And within this chapter, which is really the apex of the book, you'll find that it's a declaration proclamation of status and jurisdiction of the Moorish America. I know that it seems like I'm skipping around, okay, but just bear with it. I'll start making sense in a minute, okay? Here you have, within the heart of it, it's called an affirmative jurisdiction. You want to pass it around? You can. And you can get these too today, probably here, if you wish, okay? They don't cost enough to go for just one chapter, all right? But the thing about it, Amistad, they call an affirmative jurisdiction. What affirmative jurisdiction does, it's a legal term, which means it challenges the court. And it puts the burden of proof on the court, in which it must prove in writing by the prosecution that it has the realm in order to inquire into the facts and make a decision over the subject matter. Okay? And for example, if you're looking for a divorce, you would not take that divorce proceeding to a traffic court. Because the traffic court does not have what? Jurisdiction. You see what I'm saying? So, when you challenge the court and its jurisdiction, it means that it's got to prove that it has the power, because jurisdiction is the power of the court, to pry into the facts and make a decision, right? So when you file an affirmative, you stop no matter what it is, traffic court, criminal court, doesn't matter, it must stop. It takes 2 pillars of law. Write this down, brothers and sisters, write this down. Take 2 pillars of law to have any legal proceeding. Okay? Like I said, this is the law class. All right? Law and history. One is status. The other one is jurisdiction. You cannot have a legal proceeding unless both pillars are in place. Okay? Your status is, write this down, your true identification. Okay? True identification. All right? Call it personal identity if you wish. All right? Proper status is a legal term for it. True identity is proper status. Okay? For example, if I was to take this can of soap powder and just throw it on the step, what would you say? Number one, you sort of lost my blank mind up in here, right? Because you don't see no can of soap powder in my hand, right? Because I did not properly identify, right? Okay. That's how important true identity is. Okay? Now, I'm going to skip ahead in time and I'm going to go back a little bit at the same time so you can understand about this Negro release we're talking about. All right? In 1865, the United States Congress passed the 13th Amendment, which abolished, another legal term, slavery within the confines of the United States, except for those who were what? Duly convicted of a crime. Right? Oh, here we go. I'll pass these out to you. Okay. These are the Constitution of the United States. Just happen to have these to put around with them. Okay. Everybody have one?
That's it.
Everybody got one now? No more? Okay. The one of the blessed being on time, and two left. And I'm using one of them. Okay, now, in the 13th Amendment, the term is used abolish. Some people, mainly our people, misconstrue or misunderstand the term abolish, the 13th Amendment, and they think it means free. Okay? It did not say that. It did not say, the 13th Amendment was not freedom papers. Okay, the United States did not have the power to free anybody. This is a industrious law class, brothers and sisters, where you're sitting in now, okay? You're not going to get this at Harvard, all right? Abolishment does not translate into freedom, all right? If I have the power to free you, then I also have the same power to do what? Re-enslave you again. You don't want them to have the power to free you. Freedom is at the behest of who? The person that has been imprisoned or enslaved. They must seek out their own freedom. All right? That's the duty of any prisoner, convict, or otherwise person who has been, all right, misplaced, all right? Okay? So, when it comes out to the 13th Amendment, it said, well, we're going to abolish slavery. When you abolish the thing, that means, legally speaking, you get rid of it in its entirety. All right? Out with the slave, the whole institution of slavery, out with the slave master, out with the slave, and this is the catcher, out with the slave name. Remember we talked about that true identity? Okay? What was the slave name? Those of you who have come through the Nation of Islam and a few other, the North Scientific groups and a few other areas, people say John Smith is the slave name. Mr. Smith was a free man, brothers and sisters, free. Okay? He was. Because he gave you his name, that don't, it don't change the fact. Mr. Smith was a free. John Hawkins was a free man. Okay? That's not what they named the slave. All right? When you name with this property, if you got a dog, as long as that dog is in your yard eating your food, on your chain, you call it what you want to call it. Wood, spot, fired up, it don't make no difference. That's your dog. Not so if it's your slave or any other property, you still name it what you want to. Negro, black, colored. Those are the names that were given to slaves for those who do not believe me because of persecuted. Okay? What? My birth certificate. Well, he said, hold on to your birth certificate because the West going to make you get paid and then paid with compounding. Let's find out how that works. In your article here, dealing with the Negro, there's a term. The word is called denationalization. Yes, yes, yes. Normally costs you $1. In fact, it did cost $1. It just bought 5 of them for everybody. Huh? Oh, no, it's just the cost of printing. That's all it is. It's got to be reimbursed. Listen, when it comes down to your birth certificate, let's check and see about denationalization. When you denationalize a thing, what you've actually done is you have taken away its identity. Okay? It is a criminal, a high crime law, nationally and internationally, to denationalize any human being, ever. This is not a new law. It's been on the books from day since day. Okay? No matter what you do, even if you enslave a person, don't denationalize it. Okay? But somebody didn't care about that. All right? Now, what denationalization means is something to take away their true identity. You remember that thing of soap powder getting ready to throw away? Take away their true identity. And then what do you have left? Okay? So in other words, when you look at the 13th Amendment, what actually has took place is that someone at your birth, not only did they denationalize you, they also certified, because it is a certificate of live birth, they certified you as perpetual slavery for the rest of your natural life. I'm not saying this to excite anything, all right? My job is to give you the law. I'm an angel. Give you the truth, okay? You were denationalized at birth by the state wherein you were born. Here comes the 14th Amendment. Forgot about that one. Okay, look at the 14th Amendment, okay? That says where you were born or naturalized, you were still held subject to the jurisdiction. Then they're going to call you a citizen. Go figure. Did not the Dred Scott decision say that you can't make a citizen out of a Negro? Because a Negro could not muster even a descendant from Africa. See, cannot muster up the criteria for citizenship. You know why? Because it takes a certain kind of a person to make a Negro. And they did not build their citizenry in there. The Negro was never supposed to own property. It's a property name. You can't have anything. You can't own anything. We're back now to that $1 trillion again. Now can you understand why it is that our people have $1 trillion go through their hands as consumers annually, yet they don't own anything? Now, they cannot be taken away or they're bound to be respected. Citizens. Look at Katrina, for example. Okay? So getting back to Amistad, what they did, they challenged the court with an affirmative jurisdiction. Okay? And this is why they ended up in the Supreme Court with a little, what was known to be a little misdemeanor kind of thing. You know, you just kill up a few people, it's all right. You know, we're used to that. Okay? But in this particular case, they said, wait a minute, who are they? What is their true identity? They had to come with their own proper person, which is another legal term for true identity. Your own proper person. Well, he gave it a better name. He called it your free national name. All right? He said the children of one family, all of one family bearing one free national name. One free national name. In other words, all the people of China have one free national name. All of them are called what? Chinese. That's the one free national name. Now within that, you got many nations and, you know, families and things, you know, within that one nation, I'm sorry, you got many families. The young don't get along with the old, hey, okay, the old don't get along with the young, and, you know, but they all Chinese. Okay? Throughout the entire country of Germany, okay, all the citizens are one family bearing one free national name. What is it? They're all called Germans. Let's skip ahead a little bit, or should we go a little backward? Okay? What we want to know now is the Negro family. And if they were, how can they get along? How come Negroes don't get along with color folks? And black people can't stand either one of them. Right? But let's find out about where is the black land at? What about color land? Negro land? Let's go back to the Hebrews. Hebrew Israelites. Okay, let's go back there for a minute. Where were the Hebrews prior to Egypt? And if the Hebrews are here today, they're Negro. That's what our ancient Commissions call their slaves. They call them Hebrews. Some Hebrews up. Okay? And to give more light to the subject matter, when Moses, with a little traitorous self, that's personal. When Moses led the children out of Egypt, okay, he was a prophet, okay, he did what he was supposed to do, yeah. But anyway, led it out of Egypt. Why they had to wander around for 40 years? Because they were trying to go into the promised land, Canaan, as Hebrews. Who said you can't go up in there being no Hebrew? Ain't nothing attached to. You got to go back to the day to deal with your forefathers were yesterday. Hittite, Moabite, Amorite, something. Go back to what your forefathers were. So it took them 40 years to purge themselves out of some of that Commission thought pattern, right? The slave mentality, that is. Before they could go into, wait a minute, you know, the children said, look, y'all go back with us. We going on to be what our forefathers were. And that's where they went to the promised land without Moses. Okay? Like so, it's the same thing with Amistad. Amistad challenged the court and its jurisdiction. Say, look, you prove that you got jurisdiction. Well, who are you? They went so far back, they ended up in Africa, somewhere in West Africa. They were able to pick out a particular dialect, a language, right? And then they tell the court, well, all right, now we know who they are, where they're from. They're from West Africa, a particular country, I can't recall right now. Now, do you have any jurisdiction over them? Now they got their own proper person. Okay? Now, to show you how sticky this can get, remember I told you about the birth certificate? Look at the 13th Amendment again, when it says, have someone, it was only 2 articles passed. One was that it said you must be duly convicted of a crime. Duly convicted of a crime. Correct me if I'm wrong here. Help me out. All right. Then this word abolish have something to do with the first part of this thing. Didn't they abolish slavery? Didn't that include the slave name, Negro, black, and color? How are you going to then duly convict a Negro now, if your car gets in an accident, are you going to take the car to court? Who do they want to see in court? Huh? They want to see the owner, right? But the owner was abolished, remember that? He went out with a slave. So now you're going to do you know, understanding the nature of that law and knowing how law is set up, remember, take 2 pillars of law. One is what? Come on. Status. And the other one is jurisdiction. Okay? All right? All right. tell you, write it down. Sometimes we can't trust. We've been trained how to forget. Although we know that forgiveness is not a part of us, because God don't forget nothing. All right? We don't have a delete system in our world, those computer systems. Okay? You cannot forget. I don't care what it is. Try forgetting something. You remember more than never. Okay? But the thing about it is, when you how you going to do to convict somebody? You know, and they're not even in their own proper person. Let's deal with the 14th Amendment. All persons. Look at that. Oh, I put a couple of hands. I don't know how many. I had these at a previous session, previous class, so I don't know how far these can go out. But I'll pass it around anyway as far as it goes. Okay. And thing about this was one of the law classes that I had with some attorney in Memphis a couple of years ago. I ran this thing on. But the point I'm trying to bring out is that when you look at the 14th Amendment, all persons born or naturalized, okay? The word person, as used in the 14th Amendment, transliterates into commercial property. I don't think you heard it. I said the word person, as used in the 14th Amendment, translates into commercial property. Because the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment was all written about the slave and ex-slave, right? Right? But when you look at the legal definition for the word person, as used in the 14th Amendment, it means commercial property. Now let's see what it says. All commercial property born, remember your birth certificate? Okay? Born or naturalized. And we got some people running around here trying to naturalize, so I'll get into that in a minute. Okay? All right? Born or naturalized. They are still what? Subject to the jurisdiction. That means the court's on you, yes, again. But guess who the court is? Guess whose signature is at the bottom of the 13th, 14th? You got it in your hand, look at it. 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. Whose signature is there? On the very last article there. Here you go. That's it. Last one, and write for yourself. Okay? What's the very last statement say in each one of those? Huh? I know. I heard Congress. That's the word I'm looking for. But what does it say?
I have power to enforce. I have appropriate.
Say it again.
Power to enforce. By appropriate legislation.
By appropriate legislation.
Provisions of this article.
Okay. Now that's in the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. You can hear me?
I couldn't hear him back here.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'll say it again. The second article of Amendment 15 says the Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. Legislation, the provisions of this article.
Okay. You with it now? Okay. Congress signature is on the bottom of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. They are the ones, the only ones that's in power to make a decision when it comes down to nation time. Remember this little boy out of Cuba, Elias Gonzalez, a few years back?
Yeah.
Okay? And it wasn't Castro to come to get him, it was his daddy. His daddy said, he's Cuban. I'm Cuban. Janet Reno had to cough the little boy up. She went there with a little touch squad. Everybody was ticked off to the highest activity. But they didn't know the law. Okay? The law said what was his proper status and who had jurisdiction over him. That was the law. See it coming again? Okay? Who had jurisdiction over Elias Gonzalez, the little Cuban boy? You may not like Castro, but tell the truth now. Who got it? Didn't fire a shot. Okay? That's how important status and jurisdiction is. Noble Ali, when he came to us, he brought us our own true identity. That has been attempted by a lot of people since then, but none has been successful at identifying our people, the ex-slaves here in North America, with a true identity. Except for Noble Ali. He was the only one. He did it once. Just like God, he named the animal once. And it was good. Double checked it. And it was still good. Okay? So with one name, your name must be able to identify you with your heritage of your forefathers as well as your present concerning your prosperity. It must be all up in there. Sardines don't count. Okay? Negroes don't count. Where did Negroes come from? They didn't come from Africa. That's the first thing you have in your arbor here, right? They did not bring no black people, no Negroes, no colored people out of Africa. They didn't have to come any of those things until they was what? Made here. Now speaking about made, here I go. Please, all you maids, don't get upset at me. You know, okay? I'm making a distinction here because my only concern is the subtitle to my book is called The Exhuming of a Nation. This is what my concern is. Digging up a people that has been buried in the shallow grave right here in the what? 13th, 14th, maybe 15th Amendment, those last 10. Okay? Well, he said there was no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendment for the redemption of the people. Okay? He was the only one to say something like that. The only one. Here we are 77 years later, we still ain't figured it out. Because we keep trying to go around what Noble Ali was saying in the very first place. What is your proper status? What is your true identity? What's your name? Okay? By your name, your number, you are known. What is it? You can walk around here. We'd have been Negroes. We'd have been... Did I ever tell y'all about the time I thought I was Suprem? Well, it's a little humorous too, but I get it won't funny there. You know, but I used to live in Baltimore. It was a street called Green Street. And I don't know how many of y'all are familiar with it, but we had like a 3-story building and the marble steps. Real marble steps, you know. And at this time, I think we had about 10 of them. But it was a real high building, you know. And I would get a running start because man, the television just coming out good, you know. Everybody didn't have it. And I had a few comic books, but Superman, that was the thing. And I seen this European stand up there, you know, and little cape flying. I didn't know he was imitating me as God. Okay? I just knew that I should be able to do whatever it is he was doing, right? So I went all the way back by the steps. Got along. I opened the front door to the vestibule, and then the front door made sure that it, you know, they won't break no glass down. You know, about me being super and all that. I got a long running start at the steps. You know, the steps we walk to the third floor, all the way back down the hallway. And that's a long hallway. But by the time I come past in the living room, I was probably, you know, you probably got iron clothes on my back. I was wide open, you know. And when I hit the top step, the idea was there was another 3-story building across the street. But I'm supposed to leap tall buildings at a single bound. And that's what I tried to do, because when you leap a tall building, you must reach for it. And that's what I did. That's the last thing I remember. So somewhere 8 or 9 steps later, down on the cement, the sidewalk, okay, took all the holy breath out of me, okay? All right? So much for Superman. But it was in here. The image was there, okay? We have been some everything. We had 6 shooters and escapes and all kinds of stuff going on, all right? We have imitated everybody on this planet. Simply because of not knowing who we were. All right? Negro is a man-made man. It took a man to make a Negro. God didn't make no Negro. Please don't blame that on the Father. If you wonder why it is, it's a sin to be a Negro. Did you know it's a sin to be a black person? Because it's against the universal law of things. Remember, this is the law and history class. It is against the universal order to be against what it is that the universe is for. We of all people should know that. Okay? So how in the world can you say, not as cool? That's why they have problems. Has there ever been a solution to the Negro problem? They ain't got nothing coming, but more problems. Okay? How many of you are aware of the HR 16? The new identity, national identity. Right here in Washington, y'all know about that? That's the new identity, national identity that's coming down. It's been voted off by the sitting president. And it's supposed to be in effect by the year 2008. Everybody got to have the same identity card. Without it, you can't open a bank account, you can't drive a car, you get nothing. You got nothing coming. And here's a person over here already don't know who they are. And they're going to swoop them in the level with a national identity. What are they really doing? And they're like put a dog tag on it. Okay? HR 16. Let's put it in your computer and look it up. Okay? The Negro is a man-made person. But let me tell you why. He was designed as property to do one thing, be economical, to be economically advantage to the owner. You don't want to own nothing that's not to your advantage. It's got to look good. It got to show a purpose. You know, it's got to be advantageous some kind of way or another because it's your property. Okay? Whether you're growing, you know, whatever. Okay? It's got to be advantageous to it. All right? So this is what we're talking about. Great, so that's the whole president tried before.
Or little babies.
Right, gracious. Peace and blessings to my family. Hey. Part of me, what you. So the point we're trying to get here is that to show you the importance of who it is and why it is that black people were made in the first place. All right. You were designed to serve a purpose. How many of you know what a straw man is? Okay. All right. Let me help you to learn about the straw man because you're in a law and history class today. All right. The straw man was developed. How many of you seen the Wizard of Oz? You know about that straw man, right? That's real. Okay. What does straw man look for? Okay. You look for a brain, right? All right. Does the Negro have a brain? Look at your picture. Oh. Pass it around. Okay. The question is, does the Negro have a brain? I get my money later. Okay? Let's look at it this way. Is man made in the image and likeness of the Creator? That means we want to take into account the 3 fifth laws in the United States Constitution. Look at the very first article. How many of you familiar with Freemasonry without sticking death by themselves? Okay. Look at the very first article on page 2. Okay? Clause 3. Let's begin on page 1. Okay? See the thing that says 3 fifth clause? Alright? I'm talking about George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, all the rest of those European Masons. Okay? They created, if you want to know why you can't get rid of racism and Jim Crowism and segregation and stuff, why you can't get rid of it, because it's built into the Constitution. Because when the Constitution was originally written, the only citizen was a European male, age 21, made of sound mind and body. Everybody else was part of what he called his profane world. His profane world consisted of the very people that Jesus came to save. Okay? The cripples, Indians not attacked, women, and 3/5 all other persons. Y'all. Don't get offended when I say y'all. Okay? Just trying to go a point. 3/5 of all other persons. Now, it don't take a rocket scientist to figure it's going to take 5/5 to make a whole. Right? So what's the other 2/5? Okay? Let's build us a man, a real one this time. Remember, there's a perfect source about you, right? Because you're made in the image and likeness of the great God, the one that created everything. Some people want to call it Yahweh, some say Jehovah, some way say Allah. It don't matter. Every nation's got a name for the Creator. Except, guess who don't have a name for God? Guess who? Y'all, I know y'all would sleep on this one too. The English language don't have a name for the great God. Did you know that? Why? Because you have got to learn how to start serving a God that is where? Outside of you. If you start looking inward to serve the God that's there, somebody can't enslave you. Because they ain't got nothing coming. Okay? Is all this beginning to come together? So let's make us a man. We know about the perfect part. We're going to call it the spirit. Alright? Because we realize that in anything that's dealing with any life substance, it comes in 3 degrees. Alright? Like water. Water comes in 3 degrees. You got the gaseous state that you can't see, you got the liquid that flows, and then you got the solid state. Right? But there's something that controls all 3. Temperature. Okay? Change the temperature, you change the conditions of water. Alright? Like so with man the same way. Man, the spirit. Now let's get some of the soul. Alright? The soul is really, the act of the soul is thinking, reasoning, will, understanding, remembrance. These are actions of the soul. And we possess those things, correct? And you have that without the body because it's not in the power of the flesh to think or bones to reason. This right here, it can't think. I wave my hand is because my soul, my hand is, alright? But if I just lay it there, it'll be there when I come back for it too. Okay? Right? That's 3 of them. The other one is your proper status, your true identity. In other words, your nationality. How important is that? Well, let's find out. How important is nationality? Don't seem to be so. If it wasn't important, why do you think that was the first thing they took away from you? Okay? To show you how important it is, that's the first thing they took away, right? And so big, what did you have left? Okay? A piece. Alright? Your nationality is what connects you to the human family. Great. Every great little vine that hook right on, okay, to what is called the human family. And they're known by the nationality. That's the vine and fig tree that they speak about in somebody else's book. Okay? No, I'm not opposed to Christianity. No, I'm not talking about it. And no, no. Okay? Because people get offended and tell you, talking about the Word of God. The Bible is not the Word of God. The Bible is the Word of the Greeks. Okay? The the original Bible was called the Septuagint. It was written in Koine Greek, the lowest level of Greek there is. Because the Greeks didn't care no more about you then. They got over 15 women and they didn't do now. And you want to run around and doing all kinds of fraternities and sororities and act Greek. Why? What about that Alexander the Greek? What about him? That's what I said. I ain't back no front about it. Alexander the Greek. I ain't gonna call him Greek. After what he did. Okay? Your identity is just that important because it connects you to the rest of the human family. The Negro is not connected to the human family. He has no place to go. We have a little excerpt in my book called Out of the Pot. Okay, it calls for audience participation, but we won't go through all that. I just tell you how it works. All right? I'll ask for, well, we have to go right now. Okay? I need to ask for an Egyptian. Okay, anybody who want to be an Egyptian, just stand. Well, stand up, please. Okay. Ooh, yeah, just thank you. All right? Now remember, where you just left from, okay, it must have a name to match with you, okay? Now, give me I know we ain't got none up in here, but give me German anyway. I just want to spread it around. All right, okay. Don't. All right. What about a Japanese? Can I get a Japanese? Now you know, look, we done went through this. We done been everything. We can do anything. Okay, give me a Japanese. There's anybody say, all right, got a Japanese. Okay, a Chinese right there. That's good. All right. All right, now don't nobody get all offended, but I do need a Negro. Okay, got one Negro. Can I get one? Can I get one more? Can I get one color person? One color person. One white. Anybody? Got a color person, all right. Now, African American. Got one. African American. Anybody left out? Any black people? Give me one of them. Give one. Got it. All right, now, this game is called Out of the Pot. The reason why is because the United States is known as what? A cultural melting. It's made of many nationalities. All right? But one day, somebody put a fire underneath the pot. The fire is called enforcement of the law. Call it the laws of immigration. Call it the constitutional laws. Call it what you will. All of a sudden, martial law. Let's call it what it is, all right? You know, it wasn't that you crossed the border, but the border crossed you, right? Okay. Now it's time to go back. Everybody out of the pot. This is how it works. Your name, sir? Proper identity.
Wow, it's true.
No, sir. That's not your name. What was your name when you started?
German.
You're German. That means that wherever you come from, it ought to match your name. What's the name of where you came from? What's the name of your chair that you were sitting in? Come on, German? Okay. German? Sit down. Have a seat. Okay, we had a Japanese. Whoa. You the Japanese? All that time? Okay. A Japanese. You must have a chair to match your name. What would your chair be named? Have a seat. Have a seat. Okay. We had a Chinese too. Oh, there it is. That's Chinese. You must have a chair because you're the children of one family bearing one free national name. Your national name should match your chair. What's the name of your chair? China. Have a seat. Y'all getting this already? Okay. What happened to the black person? Huh? What happened to the Negro person? Now I want the only people that don't have a chair to sit in, y'all stand up. If you don't have a Negro chair to sit in, you ain't got a colored chair to sit in, you ain't got a black chair to sit in, an African American chair to sit in. Hello. You've been had. Okay, have a seat. Thank you for your participation. Okay. I want you to pass this picture around again since everyone is here. Okay? And then pass it back to the front. That's mine. Okay? But I want you to have an idea of how black people are made. It's very, very important because if you keep on doing what you've always done, then you're going to keep on getting the same results. You've got to make a change. And what I've done today, what I'm attempting to do today, is to give you not a history class. I could care less about history. Most history is not an exact science in the first place. Okay? And most history is written by the conqueror. That's like having the criminal describe the crime. He ain't gonna, you know what I'm saying? He don't care nothing about the conquered or the victim. He ain't gonna tell their side of the story, what it took for them to get there. All right? The lion don't care that much about the goat, all the grass he ate. He's just a good meal. All right? But when you study history, you must also, and write this down, when you study history, study law. Law governs all events. Okay? Law is what governs all events. Nothing happens without law. Our problem with the law is the fact we have been outlawed so long that we're scared of the law. Everybody turn around, right? Okay? But that's not the only thing. We are outside of the law because we've been thinking we were something other than our true self. That's why we made our mistake. All right? That's why we've been outside of the law, because we've been thinking we were something else. All right? Now, you look at this and you say, that's gruesome looking. All right? What do you think our people look like to other nations? Look at this. To all the Germans and Japanese, how many of you have seen Koreans and other people, Vietnamese, and other people come to your neighborhood, your community, and open up stores, businesses, prosper like I don't know what, and still don't send their children to your schools? How are they able to do that? Because they have been programmed to the point to let them know who you are. I'm sorry, who you are not. Okay? They have been debriefed. Every national that comes over here has been debriefed as to the culture and the habits of the so-called Negro. You're right, those of you who live right here in D.C., like I said, I lived there years ago, I lived in D.C., and I used to wonder why it was that my own African brother acted crazy around me. Didn't make no sense, man. I told him, home. I mean, he was there looking down his nose at me and things. What was all that about? Then I found out this is what he saw when he saw me. Okay? How many of you ever heard of the cities of India? Cities, spelled S-I-D-D-I-S. Cities. Okay, the cities of India, look it up on the internet, okay, write it down. The cities, S-I-D-D-I-S, cities, all right? The cities are East Africa. They look just like us, maybe a little bit more sun-kissed, okay? But just like us. The Arabs, bless their heart, have been stealing East Africans long before they started the West African slave trade with us. Okay? Even after Muhammad and people making the pilgrimage in the Hajj, a lot of East Africans never got back. Okay? The Arabs was so industrious at slave trading and the slave market. They almost start a whole other nation. There's several million of them. Totally lost. They have no concept of the African root, heritage, nothing. They do it. Look at that. I thought we were the only ones that found out about it. they were part of it here. Well, I'm not gonna blame it on it. That's another thing. Did you know the Pope was getting fucked up? It was African ever told later. And of different yeah, rock. No, stop. Hey, Charlie. Now, your own leader, government. Okay? The same way they're doing in Sudan today, we don't think that. And have your credibility. The Moorish Empire was in full effect.